Welcome to GOA State of the Second. I'm Kailey.
And I'm John, and today we're at Palmetto State Armory with Cameron.
Yes, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. You guys are a huge supporter of GOA, and this was an opportunity to kind of get to see behind the scenes here.
Absolutely. So I'm Cameron Tapler. I'm the Director of Branding and Product Management for Palmetto State Armory. Kind of have a little bit of play in the product, the branding, the messaging, all that stuff's kind of underneath my wheelhouse. So a lot of a little.
And where are we currently?
So right now we are at our manufacturing assembly facility that is in West Columbia, South Carolina.
And there's a ton of fun stuff we're going to go see. So let's go do that. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's go. So first thing I'm going to show y'all is our anodizing line. So at our other sister facility, they're making the raw parts to aluminum, and they come over here in the raw to our assembly shop, which is where we're at today. Part of that process is getting it from raw aluminum to black to be assembled to be sold retail, right? So right here is our vibes. What they're doing is they're deburring all the raw parts. They're getting all the sharp angles, the scratches, any raw material left on there that didn't fall off during the machining is deburred right here first. Once this is done, it'll come behind you and go to our sandblast machines. So we use vertical sandblast machines that we load, and we have fixturing for that we load up our parts on that turn the part from a dull, not a raw part to a sandblast finish that is etched, which is what is needed for the anodizing to absorb onto the metals. So right now they are unloading a part. So once the part comes out of the sandblast machine, it's gonna have a matte, like dull, etched finish on it from the bead blast finish that we use.
So what made you guys do anodize in-house?
So during COVID, one of the things that we saw is that you can make as much raw parts as you want, but there's only so many anodizing houses in the country, right? So everyone was trying to make all these raw parts during this gun rush, but you couldn't get the part out black to be able to assemble it. So we took the money and the time and invested in our own in-house anodizing line so we can control our own destiny. So that way we get the parts, we machine them, we aluminum, we get them right off the machine, get them anodized, and go right to assembly. There's no wait, no lead time, no delay. We also then can control our own colors. So a lot of the anodizing is going to come different colors from different anodizers. So you'll have a mix and match on a rail versus an upper. Well, here, if we're doing it in-house, we can control what that black looks like every single time, 100% of the time. What we're doing here is I'm going to show you. So once they come off and they get sandblasted, they're going to come and they're going to be put on these racks. And these racks are what actually goes into the anodizing tanks. And so the raw parts get racked, and then they'll go in and be programmed to how many minutes and what is on that rack. And that's how we know how long they go in each tank system. So as you can see right here, this rack is getting filled up right now with sandblasted lower receivers. So these are your AR-15 lower receivers that we machined that are now sandblasted and are ready to get anodized black. And then the robot system will come pick this up and dip it into the actual tanks. We do all of our anything that is aluminum on our AR-15s is done in-house and is also done anodized in-house. So you see right here is buffer tubes. You saw lowers, we do uppers, we do handguards. I mean, anything that is aluminum, we will anodize in-house.
Well, it's crazy to see buffer tubes here. Most of the time when companies do buffer tubes, they buy them in bulk from somebody else.
Correct.
So you guys are actually making everything here.
Yep, impact extruded buffer tubes.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, so we try and control our own destiny, just like the anodizing line. We try to make everything ourselves so that way we can control what we're putting out, the tolerancing, the QC, the color, every part of that is controlled by us.
That is insane. It really is.
I know, yeah, like it's the littlest things, right? Like the whole goal is controlling your own destiny, vertical integration, right? That is like the biggest thing that Jamin wants to have is we never want to get choked off by another supplier, right? Like we want to be able to, if we want to make freedom tomorrow, we want to make freedom tomorrow, right? So on our anodizing line, there's 36 different individual tanks, and they all have a different either chemical base in it, or there's a reason why there's something different about each tank. So there's dyes, there's muriatic acids, there's degreasers, there's strippers, there's all different types of material liquids that are in these tanks that have a process of what they're trying to do. And so as we walk, you'll see different colors or bubbles in one tank, not bubbles in another tank, but it's all done scientifically in a process to get it from a raw aluminum to black.
This is insane.
Yeah. And it's all done, and it's all robotic too,
Yeah.
right? So you have an arm that is traveling along and it's picking up and dropping the tank bar into each individual tank. So as you can see right here, it's not black yet, but it had one of the first part of the process done to it, and it's about to move it robotically. So no one's having to tell it to move it. No one's having to say, move this now, the timer's up. It automatically is tuned in to what that part is on that shelf.
And how many parts can you do per batch?
It depends on the part. So we have different racks for different parts, but most of them could be anywhere from about 100 to 150. And you can see it's going into the next tank. And depending on what the part is also going to be dependent on how long and in what tank it goes into. So if it's a lower, it might skip a tank, where an upper might go into another tank, because it's all depending on the square inches of the part. So it's going to come down automatically. Once it gets done from this point, it then goes back to the beginning where we had it, where they were racking everything up. They'll de-rack it. They'll check for any blems, burrs, or anything like any burn marks, because sometimes in the anodyne process you could get burns and different things because it is electric. So what they're going to do is they're going to check it and make sure that's good. They're going to put a serial number tag on every single lower, so that way we can track down the serial numbers now that they're off the anodizing line.
How many parts per day can this put out?
I think roughly probably about 3,000 uppers and probably 2,000 lowers and another 2,000 handguards.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have this running from 12 hours of shifts, 2 shifts. So, 24 hours a day, this is running. Like, it's nonstop running. We're constantly making raw parts into black parts every single day. And even if we're not using them in production right then and there, but we're gonna make them black and ready to go, so that way when they are needed for production, they're ready to go come out of there.
So you guys are able to scale up depending on demand. So
Correct.
you're constantly putting parts on the shelf.
Yep.
And if demand warrants it,
It's
boom,
ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yep, or if we burn up or we have another rush or something, we're able to make the part raw, drive it over here on a truck from 5 minutes up the road, get it in the tank, get it black, and get it out there to the floor in less than an hour.
Holy
Wow.
cow.
Yeah.
That turnaround time's insane.
Yes, and that's why it's constant direct-to-consumer, vertical integration, controlling your own destiny. And we're able to pivot too, and that's the other nice thing is we're not sitting there saying, oh, well, we're running all 13-inch handguards, right? No, we're gonna switch out the handguards. If we wanna run 8-inch handguards, we put 8-inch handguards on there, and we're out there and we're onto the floor building them within an hour,
Wow.
right? So we're able to kind of have that flexibility, and you're not like saying, oh, here's a batch of 3,000 of one SKU to an anodizer, get it to me when you're done, and here's another batch, right? No, we're able to pivot on a dime if a demand hits.
That's incredible. That's so
Yeah.
exciting to see too, because we fight things in the court, like
100%.
with the pistol braces. That's a long process, and
Yes.
you never know when that green light was going to be.
You're exactly right. And the thing is you have to decide, do you want to stock up on this inventory and hope and pray that it comes back?
Yeah.
Or do you just pivot to something else? And luckily the way that we're set up as a company, we're able to pivot when we need to pivot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So after the parts are raw, they go through a QC process before they get to the floor. So they'll check it for any dings, dents, blemishes. They'll use gauges. They'll use pin gauges. They'll use micrometers. They'll use Tesla heights. They're going to use all different types of tools to measure these parts before they even go into production. So that way there is not a bad part that goes into production. And now these are also QC'd before anodizing. So it's like a double QC check back and forth on these parts to make sure we're making good parts. So that's what we're seeing here is there's a team of people that are behind these desks that they're checking every part. They're going through, they're doing an AQL on some parts are checking 100% depending on what that part is. But they're gonna go through and check from just dings, dents, blemishes to pin gauges, to measurements, to what is the spec, what is the tolerancing, is it right, is it not right? And they're gonna go through and do all of that right here. So next thing I want to show y'all is our incoming QC. This is where all of our inbound parts, when they come from our subsidiary companies that are part of our sister companies, come inbound here. This is where they're going to be measuring in-depth parts. So just like we showed you guys on the AR-15 side after anodizing, this is raw parts that they're going to be doing that are going to be going to the floor, and that's what they're doing right here. So they are using a Tesla height to measure stuff down to the tenths of an inch to make sure it's within our tolerancing. This is our incoming quality lab. They are measuring all of these parts in spec before it gets to the shop floor.
So you guys control a lot of your incoming small parts and things like that. That's all through your company.
Yes.
So that really says a lot, because when most manufacturers will buy from multiple suppliers. You controlling it makes you be able to control the QC and test all the parts coming in.
Yeah, we're controlling it through our TDP, right?
Yeah.
You know, like obviously there's a mil spec standard, there's all these other parts, but we have our own TDP that we are measuring parts to. So for example, right now, what they're measuring, this is our front trunnion for our AKV, which is our 9mm AK. So they're going through, they're making sure the bore is concentric, they're making sure the bore is the right material, they're making sure the diameter is right, because that is critical to what's going on when this gets assembled onto the shop floor. So that's what they're checking right now to make sure that it's good to go. They give us a thumbs up. We're off and rolling out there building guns.
Yeah, most of these small parts are normally not QC'd to this tight of top spec.
Yes.
Because they're just like, hey, off the shelf, boom, right in. If it doesn't fit, we'll grab a new one.
Yeah, exactly. And so then also like when you're building AKs, it's just such a wide like spec on some of these parts that you have to make sure when you have the TDP and you're making it in a certain way, you got to make sure it's accurate every single time, right? So, because it's not fun to unbuild an AK.
No.
It's not just screws. It's not adult Legos, right? So that's what they're doing right here. During the Remington bankruptcy, one of the brands we acquired was Harrington and Richardson. And so Harrington and Richardson is our retro line of firearms. And in this room, what I'm about to show you all is where we're making all of our retro style firearms.
Oh, this is my cup of tea.
Yeah, carry handle gang,
there
right?
You go.
Yeah, they're really expanding back in and bringing that retro vibe back to the public that people are always wanting. And one of their newer versions that they have is they got this really beautiful wood with the gray anodizing, pencil barrel. I mean, it's just a beautiful piece of art what these guys are doing in here.
What's it like having a historic name like H&R inside your building now?
I mean, it's awesome. It's a good brand to have with us. Now, a lot of people are asking, like, when are these single shots or when are these things coming back that are what H&R is known for? And they are being worked on. You know, the guy who runs H&R, formerly with Nodax Bud, Mike Wetland, he's a mad genius and an encyclopedia when it comes to guns. So he's all about these little weird, nerdy gun stuff, and he has the knowledge and knows what to talk about and what to do on these guns. So it's really cool to see what's coming out of H&R.
So what you're saying is, like, there's a chance that cool old retro H&R stuff is coming.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it was up to Mike, we would be doing it today.
Okay, so today?
Yeah, not today, really.
No, it's really cool to see companies like H&R come back kind of from the ashes of the Remington bankruptcy.
Yep.
But bringing back some of the American history where a lot of people got started on these guns. You're looking at Vietnam era.
Yep.
I know retro is so hot right now.
It is, for sure. And these guys in here, they take this very, very serious. I mean, they're in here every day, buffing stuff down, cleaning stuff up. They're trying to make the most clone correct and perfect rifle that they can get to really dial in, but also make it affordable. It's not unobtainable. It's not like an everyday man can buy this part and product and still be able to afford it.
That's awesome. I think it speaks to keeping history alive,
100%.
right? We don't want to see those things, disappear because it's so valuable. We talk a lot about text history and tradition of the Second Amendment. You're looking at a large part of the tradition right here.
100%. Exactly. This room right here, I'm about to take you in, this is our packing area. It's also where we do all of our lower parts kits. So in this room, we sell a lot of lower parts kits online. So if you buy a stripped lower receiver and you want to build it out in a certain way, that's where this is all done in this room. So what we're doing in here is we have a team of people that they're putting kits together, and then they also are packing out the upper receivers that are coming off the production line. So once it passes final QC and passes test fire, then it would come into this room, it would be boxed up, it'll be verified it's the right SKU, put the label on it, and then get it sent over to our online warehouse. That's what's happening right here in this room.
Well, let's just look at the scale. I mean, look at this. These are all uppers, right?
Yep.
Look how tall this is compared to me.
Yep.
And this is how many times?
It's like 2.5 Kayleys.
Right.
Yeah.
How many times per day does this?
We have a box truck. So our online warehouse is about 5 minutes up the road from here. And we have a box truck that runs about 15 times a day from here to the other building, dropping off all of our product as we assemble it and it goes over.
So how many uppers do they pack a day and ship out?
Roughly about 2,500.
Wow.
Yeah, on average. You know, I mean, some days it might be 1,800, other days it might be 3,000. So roughly around that 2,000 to 2,500 mark every single day.
So what you're saying is if it goes out of stock one day, check the website the next day.
100%. And our catalog is ginormous. So all the people that are always like, well, when's this coming back in stock? Like, hey, come on, we're trying here, guys. Like, we're doing our best, right? You know, we're chasing it out of stock every single day. But yes, the volume is roughly about 2,500 a day.
Wow. It's in, that's a lot of uppers. That's a lot of freedom.
Yes, that's what we do here. We make freedom. So in this room right here, this is our compliance packing. So I just got done showing you our uppers and where we box our lower parts kits. This right here is our serialized. So it's fenced in, it's secure. There's only people with certain badge accesses that can get into this spot. So in here, what they're doing is they're verifying serial numbers. So it's similar to what they're doing in the upper side, but over here, there's a serial number. So there's an extra step involved, right? So you got to do the A&D log. You got to make sure everything's right. It's built right. It's assembled right. That's what's going on in this room right here. So, you know, just like the uppers over there are boxing out uppers, in this room, they're boxing up about 1,400 lowers a day. And then they're boxing up approximately another 500 to 600 rifles a day on top of that as well. So that's separate from just what uppers is doing.
That's a lot of, so you guys have, this is all serialized.
Yes.
This has got to be like a full-time team all day, every day, making sure everything is in compliance.
Correct. Yeah. And so they have 2 shifts over here. They have a day shift and a night shift, just like we have the rest of the building. And these guys get extra training. They get extra thorough. They have a different type of management team, a part of them, because they are a part of the ATF side of things. So there's always double checking serial numbers, double checking the bound books, and making sure everything is verified and doing and correct on this side of things.
And so they go from here over to the warehouse to get shipped right out.
Yep, they're a part of the 15 trucks a day that are up there with the uppers going back and forth over to there. They do about 15 pallets a day.
15, wow.
Yeah, and that's like on day shift. Like on night shift, they'll do another like 10.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so like all these right here, these are all waiting to go in a box. So they pre-print out the serial numbers and the stickers to go with them, and then they verify the serial number, put it in the box.
And then how long from here to over to the warehouse does this ship out?
So as soon as it gets over there and it gets checked in, it's ready to go. So it's ready to be picked and ready to ship out to a customer.
So if this is your gun right here, it'll be there in about 5 to 10 business days.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, 5 to 10. I like that number. If you're gonna say 2, I was gonna be like, yo, motherfucker. But you know, they're doing ARs and AKs in this room too. So it's like it's everything serialized is coming through this room.
And then everything in this facility is just rifles.
Yeah, just rifles. So just long guns essentially, right? ARs, AKs, that's jackals, all that stuff's done in here.